Okay, let's take a look here. We're going to solve this one for R1. Now, in order to solve for R1, we got to get rid of all the denominators. And we need to get rid of denominators, you need an LCD. So our denominators are R, R1, and R2. All right, so those are all of your denominators. Okay, and this creates our LCD, or least common denominator. We're going to use this least common denominator to multiply by the entire formula. Essentially both sides of the formula. We're going to distribute this. So, distributing, we're going to multiply this times this, this times this, and this times this. Now, just to let you know what happens when you multiply R, R1, R2 times a 1 over R, let me demonstrate here. We're multiplying R, R1, R2 times a 1 over R. Well, you can always add a denominator to a fraction. So you can put this over 1. Now that you have fractions and fractions, these two can be multiplied, and these two can be multiplied. So R, R1, R2 times 1 ends up being R, R1, R2. And 1 times R ends up being R. Now we have factors, common factors in the denominator and numerator, so these two can cancel each other out and become 1, leaving behind 1 times R1, R2, or just R1, R2. So this one right here, the R, R1, R2 times 1 divided by R will be R1 and R2. Similarly, R, R1, R2 times 1 divided by R1 would leave R and R2 plus. And R, R1, R2 times 1 divided by R2 would leave R, R1. Now, we are still looking to solve for R1. R1 is now on the left and right side. The R1s need to be on the same side. Okay. And rather than taking this one and adding it to the other side, which there's R2 in there, I'm going to take the one with the R1 and put him over here. So that process looks like this. Moving this R1 to the other side. So we're going to subtract R1 from this side because it's adding. And we put another subtract R1 on that side. So this side now has the R1, R2, and it has the subtracting R1. Okay. What's left on this side right here is just the R and R2. Okay. Now that we have our R1s on the same side, or the equal sign, we can now factor them out and make them into one R1. So if I factor out R1, this will be R1 times the quantity R2 minus R. Still equals to R2. Okay. Now I have the R1 multiplying with the factor, or the binomial, R2 minus R1, R2 minus R. This factor right here can be divided on both sides. So I'm going to divide everything by R2, R1, oh, sorry, R2, R. Here, I'm going to divide everything by R2 and R. And what you do on one side, you do on the other. So we divide this by R2 and R. These two are factors, so all of this can cancel out with this to make it 1, leaving R1. There are no factors here that can be canceled, so this remains R, R2, and R2 minus R. And now R is solved.